My name is Ginny Zipperer. I'm a clay artist. I've been doing clay for more than 30 years, pretty much most of my adult life. And up until recently, I mostly did functional work or wheel thrown work, wheel thrown and some hand building, but vessel forms. I did functional work in the beginning, and then I did raku for about 10 years. And then just recently, I've started doing these bas-relief wall pieces. Bas-relief means that you start with a flat slab of clay and you start building an image up on top of the slab. So I'm going to demonstrate today how I get a piece started, and then we'll switch to some of the detail work at the end. Hopefully you'll see how this whole process works. We start with a slab of clay, and because I want the clay to be kind of on the stiff side when I start working on it, I made this slab yesterday, and I have it on top of a form because this is a domed piece. And the form is made out of plaster, and because I don't want the piece to get any dry, I want control over how fast the piece dries at this point. I've put plastic between the clay and the plaster so that I can better control the stiffness of the clay. So I have an image that I want to try and work with. Usually I don't do a lot of sketching or anything before I start a piece. I might have some images on hand that I've picked up here and there. You know, I sort of know which direction I'm heading in, but there's always things that can happen along the way. So I'm just going to start with this piece. I do a lot of images with ravens and crows, and so I'm going to start this one with this bird image out over here on my left. And I'm applying the clay somewhat thickly because I want it to stand off from the piece. And most of the initial work is done with my fingers. I have a whole box full of tools, but I find that I end up using like 5 or 6 or, you know, on a regular basis, and the rest are just kind of there for special circumstances. So this raven is going to be on a tree limb that kind of is going to be going out. So I'm going to start building that up in a way that I think is going to work. So here when I'm doing this, I'm looking for dimension, since that's the thing with the big thing with bas-relief is that you want to take advantage of the fact that you're building the clay up. You really want to have some dimension. You don't want to have it all the same level. So you want to be conscious of what's closest to you, what's furthest away, and even what's even further in the background. Like probably later in this piece, I'll use a tool to do the legs and the back, so that I'm digging into the clay actually. And this piece with this tree would probably, it'd start moving into the clay as opposed to building up onto it, so that I'm taking advantage of the depth. The slab is maybe about a ½ inch thick, so I need to be aware of how deep I'm cutting things. But you get the dimensionality of it, where things can move forward towards you as well as back and away from you. So this one's shaping up pretty well here. I'm part of Baca Street Studio. The studio was opened about a year ago with some friends of mine, and there's 7 of us working in there. A lot of people there are doing wheel work. But we have some micaceous potters there, and we have a lot of variety in what people are doing. And we do classes, everything from hand building to wheel throwing to the kind of work that I'm doing, the bas relief and the micaceous clay. So I try to keep my images, detailed enough that you can tell what they are, but not so detailed that I don't necessarily try to make them realistic. I like them to have a sense of movement and action and spontaneity. And I'm certainly not a realistic sketch artist, so I don't concern myself too much about making everything perfect. So this piece is going to come along. At a certain point, I can work on this one for a while yet, but at the point at which I'm going to really start focusing on the detail, I'm going to want the clay to be a little bit stiffer so that it doesn't smear or lose the detail that I want to put in it. So I would set this on the side and let it stiffen up a little bit before I worked anymore. This is a piece that I started yesterday. So this piece is set up a little bit more. It's a little stiffer. So I can come in now and I can start refining the image. And what I'm doing here is kind of undercutting the image a little bit so that it looks more three-dimensional. Doesn't just look like it's been stuck onto a slab of clay. It looks like it's more growing out of it. And has a real sense of being separate from the slab. So I would work on this piece for, probably another hour or so and refine it a little more. These are some of the tools that I use in terms of for more of the detailing work. They're pretty simple. These are rubber-tipped kind of pencil-type things. Some of them are found objects. I use this one a lot with the square ends, ribs. Someone coming to my class we'd start with this whole process starting with the slab. You'd find an image that you wanted to work with, and we'd start building the image and working with the clay and trying to develop that to a finishing point. So people can go to our website, and my name would be listed in the artist's name and with more details about workshops.